Wasted time. Let's talk about it. And before I jump into that, yes, it is session 28, and yes, it is back day, as you can hopefully tell by the title and thumbnail. Yes, wasted time. And why is that on my mind? Mainly because, as I say, everything that I come on here and speak about in between my sessions is stuff that I deal with, battle with, go back and forth with, have certain thoughts, ideas, and act on. And this is how I display all of that. It helps me to remember things, and just have somewhere to display it. So, wasted time. Why wasted time? Really, just something that I have been in a push and pull motion with at the moment. As I think a lot of people will be, as everyone always is. Wasting time is something that can be very frustrating, feel like you're getting nowhere, wasting not just your time but your life when it gets too much and repetitive, and over small periods of time you keep wasting that time. It builds up and makes you feel like you're wasting your life. You're missing out on opportunities, you can't take action, you struggle to make decisions quickly and effectively, and you worry too much about the right decision, or you don't even make a decision full stop. It's always hard when you're going through that period of life when you sort of know what you love doing, but your career isn't made up yet. Just those sort of things that stop you from acting quickly, making decisions quickly, and having a smooth life path. The main thing that I have been pulling back and forth with is wasted time in the past and future, but specifically for me it's the future. Even more specifically is dwelling, because the future and the past are states of dwelling. They're not necessarily states that you yourself can presently be in. You can't be in the past, you can't be in the future, you can only dwell on them. For me, the past is the ultimate worst thing to dwell in. Not only can you not change anything about it, it has already happened. Whereas the future is something that, given the right actions and thoughts, you can alter it. You can have some form of power to shape or mold it, whereas the past is something that is completely been, gone, and non-existent, uncontrollable. So dwelling on the past is something that holds no value, no utility. It is just completely and utterly destructive to your own mind to dwell in the past, regardless of what it is and what has happened. So for me specifically, it's the future. It's getting stuck in thinking about the future, what I can do best to put myself in a position for the future. And sometimes it will stop me from taking action of what is in front of me, as it probably happens to a lot of people if you're someone with high aspirations and a highly wired brain for success. You're hungry for success, to do good, to give back, you support your family, give back to your friends, whatever it may be. If you have these high aspirational goals, you're going to spend a lot of your time thinking and planning about how you can put yourself in a better position to do so. But the one thing that I've noticed is that when I overdo it in this aspect and I sit and I think rather than act for too long, it almost puts me in a compromised state of action and takes away the free-flowing state of working towards my goals, what I love doing, what I care about. And it even goes as serious as I'll think so much about stuff and put so much thought into these things that it completely stumps me from my daily activities, the routine that I have set up, training, the other extracurricular things that I do to improve my mind, my body, and it will stop me from doing those things because I'm thinking too much about it. And the main reason for me talking about this is because I have come to a conclusion on it. And I'm just going to cut straight to it, because using this mind frame has really helped me to stay present. It's all hearsay when people say that, just stay present, be in the moment. It's hard to say that to someone that is either young with big aspirations or young with overriding thoughts You know, it's hard to tell someone to do anything when you yourself can do it. You know, it seems so easy if you're someone that lives in the present and then there's someone dwelling on the past or the future to tell them to be in the present. It doesn't work like that, man. So the conclusion that I have come to is that wasted time is anywhere but the present. So what that means to me is that any time that I spend thinking about the past, thinking about the future, and not taking action to get to the future, and not taking action to recover from the past, let's say, you're ultimately getting nowhere. Now take that quote with a pinch of salt, because preparing for your future, thinking about it, spending time on your future, that isn't wasted time. But the way I'm specifically saying it and meaning it is that dwelling, you know, wasting your time dwelling and thinking rather than preparing and acting and, you know, doing the things you're doing for the future. Because obviously that is something that is helpful, that I do, that everyone should do. Wasted time is anywhere but the present. And if you can constantly think like that, you know, when you're sitting in your room, picking your fingers, thinking about you should be doing this, you should be doing that. I know it's hard because I often catch myself doing it and getting into that state of, you know, it's like bending a metal bar. You know, stress is always in the middle of two unmade decisions. And that is a lot of the time why you can't make a decision, why your lack of action is occurring, is because you've got two unmade decisions that are both bending at an equal force, and then you're in the middle in the stress. So a lot of the times, the ultimate thing is just to make a decision. If you're stressing about something, dwelling on something, is to make the decision. And a lot of the times, the best decisions to make are the ones that are instantly painful, because that will always be the thing that you are avoiding. And the things that you are avoiding, you should confront, because then a lot of weight will be let off of your shoulders and you'll feel that. You know, you might not think about it, and it might not come to mind instantly that might be the thing that, you know, will stop you from stressing out and, you know, delaying your action and whatnot. But a lot of the times it is those things that you're stressing out about that you just need to make a decision on, and it should be the one that's instantly painful. So whenever you get caught in a state of being anywhere but taking action in the present, focusing on what's in front of you, that isn't the best thing to do majority of the time. So if you're someone that is in a rut of wasting time by fault of dwelling, then take action on the first thing in front of you that you possibly can, even if it's something that has very little progress. Reading a book, writing your thoughts down, who knows, just something that you can put yourself in the present and get out of those dwelling states. Because not only do those states not have potential for progress, they are stagnant and very hard to snap out of in the moment. Whenever I'm stuck in a dwelling state of something that I can't necessarily take control over, to instantly do something that is in my control, that is in front of me. It doesn't matter what it is, just something to pull you back into reality and get you back on that path to progress and to your goals. Because that can happen if you spend too much time thinking about your goals, a lack of action will actually happen. You can overthink your goals, but one thing is that you can't overact on your goals. So yeah, today is session number 28. We'll be back, as I said. I'm going to get warmed up and jump into, I think I'm going to start out with some form of row. Let's warm up and I will jump straight into a top set. Let's do it. decided to do a more older school style of row. As you just saw, it's more of a, as you can see there's a plate, so a bit more height to get more of a stretch, and not a lot of weight, as you can see, primarily because it feels a lot heavier than just your standard barbell row. It's definitely a very good variation of row. It's more of a heavy lat biased row rather than upper back. So I'm going to sit here for a few more and then move on to something else, maybe dumbbell rows, something like that. But this feels good, so stick here for a couple more and move on to something else. Let's do it. Woo! It really is a humbler. The one thing that I just noticed about what really makes it hard is that extra drop of the shoulder, that scapula really comes down into that stretch position, and it makes it really hard to, you know, get it back up into a motion that you're still using your back to keep the weight on the muscle. You know, because when you're doing normal bent over rows, I don't know, it's like you're in a position where you can easily throw it back up, but when you're at that stretched position, it's actually slightly dangerous to yank it back up because you're stretched and bent over. It's good to do at the start as well because it's, like I said, it feels heavier, so you know that it's working those muscles. Like my back already feels pumped. So one more here, then we'll move on. So let's do it. Woo! Let's move swiftly on to, I think I'm going to do heavy dumbbell row. I like using the bench now to prop the knee up against rather than, I used to do it just holding onto this because it puts that opposite side in an awkward position, and I think I pulled it once before by doing that. So having that extra stability just helps. And I'm not really one for optimal training and, you know, all of that science-based stuff, but, you know, it's good to not injure yourself. I'm going to move on to that, so I'll work up to a top set and then I'll just cut to that. Let's do it. Yep. Other side. Yep. Woo! Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good. It's definitely a lot better using the support from the bench. I feel like I get a better stretch and squeeze. I think maybe one more here, I'm not sure. 1 or 2 more here, and then I'll do last exercise, 3 exercises for today. I'll do 1 more here, see how I feel. Other than that, the last exercise will be after this one. So let's just do it. Yep. Other side. Woo! Yeah, I'll do one more. And then the last exercise, I'll probably do a lighter squeezing, probably Smith machine row. Or actually I might do shrugs. Yeah, I need to build my upper shelf, both front and back. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll do a heavy shrug / row to finish it off. Nice squeezing exercise. And then that'll be it. That'll be the session, man. Effective, efficient, as I always say, as it always should be. That's how I love my training. You know, I just do what I love and I get out, that's it. And it allows me to keep the ball rolling, as I always, you know, stress about. Keep the ball rolling, man. And that ties into, you know, wasted time and spending time elsewhere other than what's in front of you. You should always be taking action on what is in front of you and think to the best of your ability about the future and as optimally and as efficiently as you can, but don't dwell on it, you know. When you act on something, think about, will this positively impact me in the future? And then make your decision based on that. That is all you really should be spending your time thinking about for stuff in the future, you know. But one more here and then we'll move on. Let's do it. Woo! It's time to move on to the last exercise. Like I said, shrug / row, upper traps, back area, because that is what I want to grow. Should really start out with that, really, seeing as I want it to grow the most. But, you know, back day's back day. Let's move on to that last exercise. I'll probably do 3 there as well, just because I haven't done traps in a while, and then call it a session. I find it hard to make my sessions longer for the purpose of content, you know, and it's not something that, you know, I'm going to do anyway, because that would be unauthentic after all. But that's really just my training, man, you know. I don't know, it's just what I do, what I've always done. You know, obviously starting out in the early days, there was a lot of overtraining and nonsense, and as with everyone, you know, everyone goes through a stage of figuring shit out and seeing what sticks. But I feel like over the years, you know, my training's become so condensed, and I've thrown a lot of stuff out the pile that didn't work, hasn't worked best for me, I didn't like, you know, all sorts of stuff that I've just flung out the basket. And that's how it should be. You should, you know, tailor it to yourself as much as you can, because that is A, how you will make the most progress, and B, how you will get the most enjoyment out of your training, you know. No one's going to like doing a repetitive routine that is made by someone else. You know, no one knows your body and your training more than you, more than yourself. So narrow it down to the stuff you like, that works for you, and that is how training will just become or stay a passion. You know, that's how I've kept training as my passion, because over the years I've never done anything outside of myself, you know, because I don't plan to, you know, take my physique to a stage level or whatnot. I just do it because I love it, and that is it. So no one can tell me something better than I can for myself, if that makes sense. But anyway, let's just jump to the last exercise and get this done. Let's do it. Woo! That's good. I always like doing that. Like, it's like a, I don't really know how to describe it, in between a row and a shrug, and then burn out with shrugs after failure has been achieved. I'll probably drop it a tiny bit. Actually, no, we'll do another one of that weight, because, you know, it's only shrugs. Can't really go too heavy on shrugs, can you? So let's do one more at that weight. I'll probably do a rest pause on that as well, just because it's a bit heavy, and another set after that, and then we'll call it a session. Let's do it. Rest pause. Definitely time to drop the weight. I'll drop it, and then we'll do another one of those, and then that will be it. Let's do it. Rest pause again. That is it. Session 28 complete. Let's tally it off. And that is it. Blood box session number 28 on the wall. Let's wrap this shit up. That is it, man. Session number 28. Slowly I'm keeping the ball rolling with these sessions. And it's hard, man, you know, with other hobbies, a day job and everything else in between, trying to stay on top of physical health, mental health, organising everything, just daily life stuff that, you know, amounts up, that requires accountability and action. You know, it makes for things like this hard to do and organise and edit and post and stuff like that, but truly this is my passion. Well, it's a combination of two passions really. One being the gym, training, weightlifting, and two being the expression of my thoughts and feelings and analogies and whatever you want to call it, philosophies. You know, I love the two combined together because it makes for a very interesting, insightful and helpful content channel, person. You know, people at the end of the day, we're not just technological devices and online characters and usernames. You know, we're people at the end of the day, and you know, people are interesting. That's one thing that everyone is veering from, is how interesting and insightful humans are. You know, our habits and thoughts and ideas, and exchanging that on something like social media. And I just want to bring that back because it's going to a very dark place, and if I can just be one person to be authentic and, you know, express my thoughts, feelings, ideas, ideologies and honesty, truth, and, you know, just interesting, insightful, useful stuff that, you know, someone might listen to and go, wow, I needed to hear that today. That's all I'm doing this for. And, you know, combining those two passions together, I don't know, it all has fallen into place for me, you know, in my life. You know, I felt like that is the main thing that I needed, is something like that to happen. And I'm glad, you know, to realise that and to be down here and actively pursuing it. So yeah, just have a think about that, what I said at the start about time and wasting time and spending time elsewhere other than the present, being in the present moment and focusing on what's in front of you, you know, not to spend too much time with your mind in another place to where your body is. You know, that's the worst place to be, is, you know, having your mind somewhere that your body isn't, because unless the two are in complete coherence and align, nothing can actively happen. Your mind and body have to be in the same place at the same time for you to take action on anything, on your goals, day-to-day tasks. You know, your mind and body have to be in the same place at the same time. And if you're constantly thinking of something past, future, and you're not in the present, you know, you can waste a lot of that time thinking about stuff rather than actually doing it. And that's one thing about thinking and taking action. You can always overthink things, but you can never overact. You can never overact taking action on your goals, but you can overthink them. You can think about them too much and dwell on them and, oh, what about this and what about that, you know, and at the end of the day, you just don't make a decision. Whereas if you just keep making the decisions and learn and come back and, you know, assess and keep acting, is really the way to progress. You know, there's only so much preparation that you can do until action is required. And really, I'm starting to realise that action is the most important thing in the first place. Unless you're really successful anyway and have acclaimed success and have stuff to lose, that's the most important thing about taking action, is that if you have nothing to lose, then just act in the first place. There's nothing to lose. What are you preparing for? Whereas if you're someone that is of higher status, higher net worth, and has these things to lose, you know, expensive items, money, family, you know, put yourself in a dangerous position, then that requires preparation and, you know, serious thought and judging and weighing things up. Whereas if you're someone that's young and, you know, you don't have a lot of things tied to your name, you know, you might not be in a relationship, you might not have a lot of money, you might not have a car, you might not even have a house, somewhere to live, afford food and stuff like that, then you have nothing to lose anyway. So taking action is the most important thing over the preparation, because success is a speed-loving thing. So the quicker you act, the quicker you will learn, i.e. the quicker you fail, the quicker you learn is the usual saying, the quicker you fail, the quicker you learn, which is the case. But, you don't want to keep failing all the time. You want to learn and assess and reevaluate your actions and how you can do better. But taking action is far superior than taking too much thought, too much preparation into certain things. Just do it, act, rather than think and waste time, whether it's past, future. You can never waste time being in the present and acting in the present. That is where I'm going to leave that. So just think about that, and if you're thinking about doing something, just act on it rather than keep thinking about it, because I'd rather regret my action than the thought of what if. At least with an action, you know how it ended up. It might fail and you still might regret it, but at least you know the regret is from the action. Apologies, camera cut out, battery died. The knowing of taking action and failing is far superior and has more utility than the thought of what if. At least you have a end result, you have a solidified answer. There's not a big bundle of mystery and doubt. Just the thought of what if in general is my worst fear, my worst nightmare. I hate that. I would rather act and fail and know than what if. So that is that. Session number 28 tallied off on the wall. Good session. Not sure what will be next. I'm trying to keep the ball rolling, but that is it. I will see you in the next one.